historically, there's no shortage of people that have impact consciousness, right? Meaning, I want to make the world better. I want to help this. I want to do that. But many times they're broke, right? They've got no money flowing through their ideas. So I'll let the listener imagine, how that worked out.
Yeah.
Likewise, there were in history no shortage of people who cracked the wealth consciousness code. They learned how to make money come to them. Okay. Mm-hmm. I truly believe the future of moving the world in a better direction will come when you have both equal parts, wealth consciousness and impact consciousness.
Yes.
You have the consciousness that can increase the flow of money through you, and you've got the consciousness of, yes, here's what I will do with that money to make other people's lives better.
Right. Welcome, everyone, to yet another episode of the show. And I am so happy, so excited because today I have my man, Mr. Alok, virtually in front of me. And really, I'm excited because he's Indian. This is the first Indian guest I have. As an entrepreneur, I have had before, but more from the IT background, technology entrepreneurs, but from the work he does, and just because of his energy, and that you will feel as we get in a couple minutes into the show, you will see why I'm excited. You can talk so much about people and their accolades. His accolade is his energy. His energy talks for him. So without further ado, Mr. Alok, over to you and welcome.
Oh, Manpreet, my man, it's such a joy to be here. Just sharing time with you gets me going.
Yeah, amazing. So we'll get into your backstory later. This time, I thought I'll ask you because of what is happening in the world today. Like all of a sudden, this last year, we've seen the world is experiencing the same thing. Whether you're sitting in India, UK, or US, everybody's experiencing the same thing. And as that shift is happening, and all this great resignation and people leaving jobs, how do you see as an entrepreneur, as a person who trains entrepreneurs to make successful business, how do you see the shift?
I think there's a massive awakening going on. You're so right that there's a unity consciousness happening right now that's different than I think what people assume unity consciousness might have looked like, right? Like we all are sharing the same experience around the world. And I just allow that to lead us into another set of ideas around like, what else do we share? Like if we can realize that we have such a shared commonality of our experience, like, where else can we take that, right? So I truly believe that we as humans are hardwired to serve. We love serving. We love making other people's lives better, right? So amidst all the kind of divisiveness or division of culture or geography, we start seeing, wow, we're all having this shared experience. I wonder what else is shared, right? Where we can actually have a more coming together, right? We can start letting go of the divisiveness to realize, yeah, like, well, what does it feel like to build a business that makes other people's lives better? Right. And now people with the great resignation are beginning to open up and go, well, what might I do to make the world a better place?
Yeah. You said it rightly. It's awakening. The COVID put us into place where we started to look down the things that we were putting in the closet. Okay, it doesn't matter. My boss is narcissist. Doesn't matter. My job makes me do these things. Doesn't matter. Or my relationship or my bank balance, whatever it was, we were just putting in a closet, and all of a sudden the closet disappeared. We had no choice to but see it. To come out. So we're on the awakening moment, and a lot of it is happening. So now coming to your backstory, and you've been somebody who has run purpose-driven businesses before, and you've been on TEDx, you've been on featured with Tony Robbins, Forbes. I can go on and on and on, but through your own journey, it shifted where it was no longer about Alok. It was about the impact, which we'll get in with your book also later on. But Could you walk through that journey of yourself, that transformation or awakening happening in your life as you experienced?
Yeah, I had been on a 20-year journey to create mission-driven businesses, and yes, you're so right. There's all these highlights, these amazing elements, but I think the piece that I would really like to speak into is in 2016, losing everything, and I was living in a one-room studio. I didn't have a car. I had to look down at my 4-year-old son at the time, who would be sound asleep in the one bed that we had that we shared. And I had to ask, like, how did this happen? Like, how did I get here? How did I get to this moment? And, for someone like me, where I had put everything on the line many times to try to be a social entrepreneur or a mission driven entrepreneur, I was baffled in that moment. Like, how did the wheels fall off? Right? You have the right heart, the right intention, the right work ethic, the right commitment, the right dedication. What was I missing? And there was really that sort of, coming to God moment, right? Where I had to raise my hand and realize the thing that I wasn't doing that everybody else was, that successful people around me were doing, was I wasn't asking for help. I wasn't raising my hand and being courageous and allowing and being vulnerable, actually, to allow that I didn't always know what I was doing. And instead, because I was embarrassed, I would hide that. Right. And so that ability to start shedding the ego, shedding the pride. And so you're right. I started as the Alok Appadurai brand, and, I would just start coaching people and helping them with sales and various things. And then it emerged because, if I'm being honest, I didn't actually ever feel comfortable marketing my personal name. It just like, some people set out to be a guru, like, not me. I didn't like it. So you are correct. There was just a beautiful transition moment. I want all of you listening to really trust. If you're having that same hesitation, and maybe, you're striking out, you're resigning from that job, and you're going to build your own business. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with building a personal brand around your name. Nothing wrong with it at all. But it's about comfort level. And I didn't have that comfort level, even though we were succeeding and the business crossed 6 figures and then multiple 6 figures. But I knew I was listening for something. And when one night, laying on my couch, I was playing around with some ideas. I was tapping into my creative imagination, which I want all of you to know, you have the biggest wealth generating technology ever, which is your human mind. So I laid there and I kept asking this question of, like, what's next? Because this personal brand doesn't really feel right. And that's when Uplift Millions emerged. And I quickly knew, Manpreet, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is it, but then I was like, is this it? I'm pretty sure that, but by the end of the night, I knew that the universe had gifted me the entire runway in that moment, and we never looked back.
Amazing. Few questions. First of all, when you were at this moment where you lost everything, right?
Oof.
Yeah. And you said you were questioning how did that go wrong, and you were able to figure out. But so many times, we hold on to the things, like, there may be somebody listening to this who's near to that moment where they're losing everything, or they're not losing, but they're holding, okay, I cannot let go of this job. But I sense, that so many times the thing that we are holding so strong, when you lose that, that's when the next thing happens. Like, if you didn't lost that everything in 2016, Uplift Millions would never have come, because your mind was there, trapped in those things, right? What would you tell the people who are in the similar situation? What could they do that can help them overcome those villains or that situations, or accept it in a way?
Yeah, if you're listening and, maybe you're in a complicated moment, or maybe you're in a job you don't like, or maybe you're at that moment that I was at, where it's literally bottom of the barrel, right? And I want everybody to know, you don't have to hit the bottom of the barrel moment. If you can listen to other people's bottom of the barrel moments and channel and tap into the transformation that's occurring for them, you can channel that without actually having to lose everything in order to make super powerful decisions. So what I would say to them is, don't let your evidence of your current circumstance cage you into someone who doesn't have a vision of what's possible. Mm-hmm. So what many people will do is they'll build their current identity based on their current evidence of their circumstances, right? Like, so what we have to do is, there's one word: faith. Faith. Okay? Like, these moments, if you're listening and, maybe you're channeling where I was at 2016, like, this is going to test your faith. And either you're going to say, nope, world's out to screw me, everything's going against me, and you wave that flag, right? And essentially you move into what we call victim energy, where you're blaming everybody else for why your life is the way that it is. By the way, that used to be me, right? Well, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that, and that's how I lost everything. And look at me, woe is me in this one-room studio with no car. And see, that's the victim energy to my circumstances, right? Maybe somebody has a job that pays them well, but they're miserable. And so then they blame, well, I've got my family and my kids and I got to pay for, school tuition and clothes. I could never leave my job, and so then you stay miserable and then you start resenting everybody around you. So the most important decision, number one, is have faith. Have faith that even in the moments where it doesn't seem true, the world is working for you, not against you. See, I always say to people, it's in your hardest moments, can you still keep your philosophies? See, it's easy to go, the world's working for me when everything's working great. Can you still believe the world is working for you, the universe is working for you, God is working for you in the moments where your evidence doesn't seem to be telling you that? See, the reason I can say that, Manpreet, is that I look back and I'm like, now I realize that 2016 was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. Now, friends of mine might have looked at me back then and thought I was a lunatic if I were to tell them, hey, what's happening to me right now is the best thing that could happen. But it really is. So I really encourage your listeners, can you see the silver lining? Can you ask yourself, how is this a gift to me right now? Can you ask yourself, what would you regret not having done in your lifetime if you just were to stay running in the life that you're in right now? So these were the questions that motivated me, and it was deep faith, and it was some almost bolt loose crazy that this has to be going in a good direction,
That's amazing. It reminded me of a quote by one of the famous Indian poet, Mirza Ghalib, but I'll translate and it may lose the meaning, but he said that sometimes, I got so many problems thrown at me that it became easy to handle, because so many, it couldn't have gone worse, that it became easy. That only thing you could have done in that point was to think, how could I change it? And I think that's what happens. But that comes with the faith. What is faith to you, Alok? Like, when you say faith is such a big one, to some people it's religion, some people it's just believing in something. How do you see faith for yourself? What is it for you?
Thank you for asking that. That's this is deep, man. This is the real right here. Faith for me is, and I'll just speak in my language, and your listeners can translate for whatever makes sense, because I really want everyone to hear that I truly have no belief system that I feel anybody else needs to believe, right? We have so much divisiveness in the world around belief systems, right? Your God versus my God. It's like, well, I just believe, I mean, this might get a little uncomfortable for some people. I grew up, my father is from South India. My late mother was from rural upstate New York. She came from a Christian background. My father comes from a Hindu Brahmin background, right? I mean, we got some,
complex.
yeah, right. And so I'll be honest with your listeners, like I was always super confused in all these faith systems. And so at about age 13, I just simplified it down. I would go to India and I would go to all the temples, and then I would go to upstate New York and I'd go to the churches. And I was like, man, like all these people like think everybody else is wrong, and we had this very kind of binary right, wrong world. And so for me, Manpreet, at 13 years old, faith simplified. It just was like, well, I don't really know who's right and who's wrong, but all I know is that there's a God, and I'm pretty sure I'm connected to God. And that was it. And I was like, you can call it whatever you want. You can build whatever buildings and all of that. And that's beautiful. And that's why I can go around the world and I can feel a spiritual connection wherever I go, because I don't really see the divisiveness. I just believe in a connection to the divine, whatever you call it, like, source, universe, God, Yahweh. Like, so for me, it is my faith is in the fact that there is a divine universal wisdom that when we tap in and open our consciousness, we get to tap in, and that wisdom gets to pour through us. We just get to be channels of that. And when we can trust that there is an orchestration afoot, even in the moments like when my mother died in my arms in the bathroom of her home and I carried her dead body searching for the pulse in her neck, which is one of the stories I talk about in the book. How did that work for me, not against me? Now, you might, in the moment, it was devastating. Yeah. But now, 13 years later, it was a huge gift to me, even though I never wished for it. But it changed my life irrevocably. And I've changed my life for the better, even though I didn't desire it. So that's my faith, is now whenever things get complicated, whenever things don't seem to be going right, maybe it's in my business, maybe it's in my personal relationship, I trust and I lean into faith that I'm supposed to be learning something in that moment, that there's a gift in the moment, even in the hardest of the moments.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I've heard your mother's story, and every time touches me, because just takes into that moment. Like I can go and see how a son can feel with the mother, because it's a very special bond, and learning from that is just huge. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for, talking about the faith, because I think so many people are afraid these days to just talk about what they believe in. It's because they're afraid of judgment, because there are so many people with the opposing thoughts. And just because people have opposing thoughts doesn't mean one is true. I mean, both could be true, but how does that truth come across at the moment? And I think that's what is happening in the world today, and 2020 is just bringing it up. You mentioned that, when we are in that moments of despair, when we're down to nothing and we have the faith, and, and just like you channel Uplift Million, and you knew it was just something, but, you were able to receive that something, then to become, something bigger. That at that point setting, you probably didn't know, like, it's just Uplift Millions, the name, right? So somebody who's down there who doesn't know, how do I listen or how do I receive? Because it's not like Alok has magic. He has something that he has magic that he gets it. So somebody who is in that state, I want to listen more, but I don't know where to start. How do I listen to this divine wisdom, or whatever they want to call it, or to the faith where I am able to receive what life is showing me?
Another word I'll share with your listeners is magic. Magic. So I would say the first step is literally, can you open up to the wonder of life's unfolding. And we either believe that magic happens or it doesn't. I just finished a team call this morning, and rather than get into all the strategies of, our next marketing campaigns and conversion events and all this stuff, I told them this story of something that literally unfolded on Friday that had so many layers of, another word is synchronicity, serendipity. You might hear certain people say, you'll never believe what happened to me, right? Like people will start noticing that certain things kind of keep opening up and unfolding for some people, but not others. Why? And I truly believe at this point that it's those people actually believe in a magic underneath it all. And then those things start happening more and more and more. First and foremost is if you're looking to connect to the divine, or you're looking to tap into that universal consciousness or that universal wisdom, or you're not even sure what the heck this guy's talking about, right now, what I would say is, first and foremost, you don't need any other humans to connect you with God or divine. A lot of other humans will tell you that you need them in order to get to God. Okay. And a lot of other humans probably will charge you a bunch of money, in various forms to be your, no, I truly believe you already are directly connected to God. You already are an expression of God's wisdom. You're already, it already is. It's already happening inside of you. It's not like a thing you have to search for or, right? But can you listen? Here's a question that I ask often. God, what would you have me do right now? And then I stop talking and I just listen. I'll sit by my fire on the balcony and I'll just listen. And then maybe I'm having a conflict with my partner, Caitlin, and I'll literally say, God, what would you have me do right now? What would you have me say to her? And you'll start noticing that truths will emerge in your mind. And that is Source speaking through you in that moment.
That is beautiful. And I mean, I've been a person of faith, like I was raised Sikh, so I had those values. And even though I wasn't very religious, I had the faith, like I knew there was something, right? But I would admit that I wasn't as consciously aware as I am now in this season of my life. And one of the things I've learned is when you start to become aware, you start to listen. Like you are, small things will start to show up, and magic, synchronicities. Like this wouldn't have happened if I was not listening. 2020, I was still busy with my job. Me and Alok, no possibility, right? So, for the people listening, just like Alok said, you don't have to go to somebody, just ask a question. And this is where I think we are not taught. We are taught in organized religions, in our faith. Okay, you go to church, temple, you ask God for help there. You're not taught to ask help when you're sitting anywhere in your place. Like you could be sitting in a couch, in a toilet, in a bath. Just ask for help, and then just be shut up and receive it. That's, I think, is brilliant, because a lot of times we ask help and we don't listen then. That is amazing. So
I mean, I've had as spiritual moments in some of the temple towns in South India, as I've had at some of the cathedrals in England, as I've had sitting at the rim of the Grand Canyon, as I've had sitting in the bathroom of my house.
Yeah. Actually, bathroom is a
phenomenal place.
Yeah, it is the place where you're alone most, right? This is the place you're alone, like really, and that's where it can happen. If you can get enlightenment, the chances are bathroom is one place.
Totally. This is one of the best moments ever right here, by the way. This is an instant classic. I hope everybody's listening, because that might be the biggest golden nugget that you're going to
Maybe the title of this today's episode is "How to Get Enlightened in Bathroom."
That's right. That's right. Listen to what emerges in the bathroom.
Golden right there. So, coming to from your successful now that you have since 2016, since you started Uplift Million, you have been very successful coaching business, and this is why I'm excited because when and you probably don't know this, Alok. So when I came to know Alok, because I wanted to transform or get in the coaching business, I was already speaking to somebody else. Very similar money range, right? It wasn't that, it was very different. But there was something about you, Alok, when I spoke to you, I didn't have that money objection anymore, right? It was same money, probably the same content, the way it was driven, like that
Sure.
content, but it was energy. And this is why I think it's a good point to bring your book into it, because you talk a lot about how big money energy or money energy changes the consciousness. So let's talk about your new book, Maximum Impact. I don't have the book yet. I'm still waiting. But talk about what it is about and who is it for, and then we'll get into the energy side of things.
Yeah, the book is my 20-year journey to build impact-driven businesses. But to be honest, Manpreet, the book's not about me.
Yeah.
You might end up reading some stories in there, that have to do for my journey, but the book's really not about me. The book is about you. The book is about you and everybody out there whose lives it might come in contact with. I really want the reader, if you go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or whatever your platform is, and you pick up a copy of Maximum Impact Potential, please read it as a book about you. And read it as a reflection of your journey. Read it as a signpost along your path. This is really, this is not like some brag fest or whatever. It's really just, I want, my desire is, for people who don't necessarily have 4 figures or 5 figures to invest in a coaching, for $18, I want to lay out a path that can lay the foundation for anybody to tap into what we call MIP, which is maximum impact potential. What is your maximum impact potential? So a lot of entrepreneurs will read this book, but I also believe people in corporate, how are we shaping businesses and culture from a lens of uplifting other people? And so it shares a lot of the gems in there for anybody who actually cares about changing the world for the better. I truly believe it will change their life.
So you mentioned, and just in the name is maximum impact potential. So what is impact? I mean, why should somebody care about impact? I'm making my money, I'm making my living. What is it?
For me, impact is both positive and negative, right? We are making impact every single day, right? If I live in the United States, just simply being alive and the decisions I make will have an impact, right? So once you realize that you're actually not just making money and going to your job and coming home and, microwaving a frozen dinner out of the freezer, and you think you're just living your life and it's not really about impact, but your life is impactful. The question is, what impact will it make?
Yes.
And so once we start awakening and going, I'm going to make an impact. Like, all of your decisions add up to your impact anyway. So now we start going, well, some of us are beginning to say, well, I'd like my life to matter.
Yes.
I'd like my life to matter. I'd like to feel like my life made a difference. I'd like to, a lot of us, if you go from the Tony Robbins world, there's, those 6 human needs. And one of them is contribution, right? Or significance, I think he calls it, right? The need to feel significant. Well, what does that mean, right? In my case, I want to get to I had a spiritual experience actually driving in North India, at 19, going from Delhi to Agra to go see the Taj. And it was a hair-raising drive. And my 80-year-old self basically sat next to me and asked me, what'd you do with your life? Did it matter? And who'd you spend your time with?
Yeah.
Right. And that changed everything for me. Everything. I was going to be an investment banker. I literally, it was like the brakes on my life got hit. I went back to university, rebuilt the entire path because I was like, I want to live a life of purpose. I want to live a life that I feel like I'm contributing to the improvement of other people's lives, not just my own. So when we move from me to we, what does that mean? So if you're thinking about impact, it's not that you've got to like go do something around the world. No, but what is your biggest contribution to the improvement of circumstances for someone other than yourself? And then when people start tasting that, they're like, oh, that tastes good. I want to do more of that, right? And so we start unlocking their maximum impact potential during their lifetime.
And it is true. Like I was reading, I was listening to, trying to remember whether it was Tony Robbins or somebody. They mentioned that there was a study done. Actually, it was Lewis Howes. He mentioned there was a study done. And in the study, it said that they basically looked at all the people who were been successful, all walks of life, and people not successful. And they were trying to figure out at what point money becomes enough or irrelevant, and the impact comes in. And they said once your daily needs are met, which in US is about 70,000, and different country could be equivalent. But once you get to that line, that's when you start asking, okay, what is there? Because now you have the money to make your daily living. Then you start to feel like, okay, this is not getting me that kick or what I wanted from my life. What is there next? And that's when people start to find the impact, the significance. And it's so true. I've seen it. And a lot of people who don't realize it because they are still in the sleep mode, I say, because I was sleeping for a while. And that's where I think your book brings a important discussion on the money energy versus wealth energy, right? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I talk about there's a concept I have called 4 circles of contribution. And many of the entrepreneurs that come into my orbit want to change the world, right? And so I use the 4 circles of contribution to help people first and foremost just come to terms with where they're at. Okay, so the first circle is in the middle, and that is where you're able to earn enough to take care of yourself. And then the second circle of contribution is where you earn enough where you can take care of yourself and you can provide for your family. Third circle is where you earn enough where you can provide for yourself, your family, and now you can start taking care of your community, right? Maybe you're able to donate to local nonprofits or invest more time into causes that matter. The fourth circle is where you earn so much money that you can start making ripple effects around the world. Okay. So I just say to people, identify which of those circles you're at. And in order to move to one of the outer circles, we need more money energy to flow through us. And so this is where, we talk about the intersection of what we call wealth consciousness and impact consciousness. Okay. Historically, there's no shortage of people that have impact consciousness, right? Meaning, I want to make the world better. I want to help this. I want to do that. But many times they're broke, right? They've got no money flowing through their ideas. So I'll let the listener imagine, how that worked out.
Yeah.
Likewise, there were in history no shortage of people who cracked the wealth consciousness code. They learned how to make money come to them. Okay. I truly believe the future of moving the world in a better direction will come when you have both equal parts, wealth consciousness and impact consciousness.
Yes.
You have the consciousness that can increase the flow of money through you, and you've got the consciousness of, yes, here's what I will do with that money to make other people's lives better.
Yeah, and so huge. And I think You're right. I mean, that's why we have this great resignation, because the wealth consciousness is not working. People want, the people at the top just about wealth consciousness. If the companies, especially the companies who were doing very well, and 2020, they started getting people fired or giving them furloughs. Whereas these are the same companies who called them families before, right? And yet, when the tough time came, actual family showed up, right? The reality of the family. That's why people are leaving. So um, I truly believe that too, that um, not only because you need to have this wealth consciousness and impact consciousness because you want to build those businesses, but even for people to come and work because they want to feel that they're making that difference. Like, you don't want to just work for somebody anymore who's just about money. Because
Yeah, this is at Uplift Millions. At Uplift Millions, this is what we call blue zone leadership, and there's a massive movement afoot. And the old way of doing things was, and your listeners may be familiar with this, which is profit at all costs, right? Burn down the environment. Poor people are expendable. Women are expendable. Brown people are expendable. As long as you make profit at all costs, you're a good business leader, right?
Yeah.
That's the old way. And I call this red zone leadership. And when I was at a ceremony in Costa Rica, I had a big aha that 20 years of my work, it literally came into my vision, was like, oh, the world is red right now, meaning it's primarily has historically been led by red zone leaders running red zone businesses that have, at times not been beneficial for a collective whole, a very extractionary form of business, right? I truly believe there's an emergence of what we call blue zone leaders, right? These are leaders who value the environment, who value women, who value people of color, right? Who are beginning to say, wait a second, those old ways, like just earning profit, like is not the only form of joy that a business can enjoy, right? And so I think there's more and more leaders. And by the way, I'll challenge your listeners to ask this. Do you think in 50 years, workers will be picking which companies they work for based on the same reasons as 50 years ago?
We know that.
And the pandemic has only accelerated, right? That workers are wanting to work for employers that where there's a shared set of core values. That's a very different conversation than 10 years ago.
Yeah. Definitely. And just because the dynamics and that shift has happened, not only the people at the top have to shift, workers are shifting too. And what I saw, coming from an engineering background, a lot of times when people, and I've seen it both levels, as an engineer, they get a job and all the focus is on their hard skills, the job skills. They may do a course. If the company offers, they'll do that course and sort of, step up the ladder in the company. Similar, the bosses and the executives, they just feel like, that they've arrived, the entitlement that, okay. Whereas when I look at what you call as blue zone leadership is, these are the leaders who are always investing. Like when I look at you, not only you're investing in your leadership styles, you're investing in your spiritual growth, you're investing in your physical growth. And that's the people you want to be with. So when somebody is, so let's say somebody who's an engineer, just getting a job or have been in a career, they want to shift. They want to bring about transformation in their life so they can have not only the impact, not only the wealth, but they may not be the entrepreneur, but they are the blue zone people. How do they bring that, or how do they cultivate that transformation?
Yeah, they don't, people don't have to be an entrepreneur to be a Blue Zone leader, right? You might be a middle manager in a company. You might be a senior manager in a company. You might even be C-suite in a company, right? And you get to begin to start asking yourself, how can I start leading with more heart than just greed? With more heart than just greed. Knowing that shift actually is what will create a vibrational frequency of attraction for high level talent into your orbit, right? It's an amazing thing. It used to be seen as like a sacrifice, right? Like, oh, okay, let's bring some heart, and do it for a good report to the board, No, it's like it actually is going to create a workplace. Like what we're seeing is that workplaces driven by fear are actually less productive. I mean, so we have evidence. It's no longer even anecdotal that these are positive shifts to make. So I would say to the listeners, how would you lead? Because you're all leaders. I'm not here to collect followers. I'm here to collect leaders. I want leaders around me, right? Like whatever your position is. When I lost everything in 2016, I had to swallow my pride, swallow my ego. And in order to put food on the table for my son, I took a customer service job inside a company that a friend of mine said, you need exposure to this company. And I literally had to beg for that job because my DISC profile aligned me with the CEO of that company, not with the customer service agents of that company. But, in so doing, you get to see and realize like, oh, wow. Like, yeah, you might have to make some short-term sacrifices, but when you open yourself up to growth and you open yourself up to learning, the universe will literally lay out a magical path for you that just might not be what you ever thought was going to happen.
Yeah. And this is why, because you humbled and opened your heart, like you had to swallow that ego to that heart to get open at and have a very different impact-driven company that you have, because I've worked with the people that you work, so I know firsthand, if I was in the job market, I would be, reaching out, Alok, do you have anything? Because I know it's not about the money, it's about the impact that I can create. And I know that I won't be cheated. Like so many times, people go into the companies, they know they will be cheated, right? For years, when I went to my annual appraisal, I knew I would be cheated, right? And people go on there and they don't have expectation. They're like, okay, I'm not going to go get anything. And it was becoming normal. And I'm so glad 2020 is just like, it's not normal. It's not normal anymore. And conversations are changing, and people who are yet not changing are not going to be there for a long time, because guess what, people are finding the jobs that attract. So one of the things I used to hear when I worked in corporate America was business, and this was coming from business leaders. As a business leader, I'm unemotional, that I don't make emotional decisions. And I could never understand, like, if you're dealing with people, how could you be unemotional about that? Like yes, I understand investing with the rational thinking, but dealing with people and not being unemotional, how does that work? And as a person running the company now with so many people, what's your take on whether somebody should be emotional, empathetic, opening up to their people that they work with, or they should have this hand, okay, you just work for me and I'm your boss and let's just get the business done?
Yeah, I've always been the leader that was accused of being like the naive, what's the term? Idealist. Naive idealist, right? Which is, that thoughtful, sensitive, visionary leader, he'll grow up one day and realize that business is not about emotions. right? That's my whole journey. I've had business partners. I've had so many people sort of almost, coddle me, right? Like, you'll grow up one day and become unemotional in business. And I'm so glad I didn't listen to them. That's the old way. That's red zone leadership, right? There's no feelings. This is just about making money. All right. And are we going to do a deal or not do a deal? I couldn't disagree more with that, especially if you desire to be what we call a heart-centered leader, right? One who actually is building things based on a collective good, right? So if we're not just looking to take care of ourselves and not just needing to focus on our family, but really starting to think into that beauty of the collective whole, which is that unity consciousness that you and I opened our talk with here today in a different form, right? The forced unity of the pandemic. We're realizing that we get to come together here. And so my view is that emotions are actually rocket fuel for your business, not a hindrance, not an inconvenience. And what we're seeing is that businesses that can actually build rich, real human connections are the ones that are set up for huge futures. So I believe the opposite. Well, the one thing I will say here is that where I have grown is that, sure, within running a heartfelt business, there are some decisions that do get to be made unemotionally, right? So it's not an either or, but in our culture, it is emotions driving, and then it's identifying the unemotional moments that I do have to make, whether it's firing somebody, letting them, like those are not the easiest. They do need to be made. But even when we let people go, I do it to my best of my ability, with love, with care, with an intentionality of, can we help them get another position on somebody else's team? So, love and care can be part of your culture at all parts of the process.
Yeah. And you said the important word, culture. How can you have a culture without emotion, right? You're not building. That's not a culture. That's factory. Amazing. All right. Now off to some light stuff. A lot of hard stuff. Deep thinking. How does Alok, when he's not working, his coaching side of things, and he's just being Alok, father, a husband, what do you do for fun? What brings joy to Alok outside the work?
I love pouring candles.
Yes.
I love pouring candles. My name means light. I don't know if this was intentional, but I love pouring candles. Yep, you've got one right there. I hand pour every one of those. It's fun. It's meditative, relaxing. I love the smells. I love thinking about other people enjoying them and smiling. We love to travel. I love road trips and driving through random places that don't seem to be much of anything, but usually are absolutely fascinating to me. I love eating ice cream. And I love watching movies and just hanging and chilling and just being together. Caitlin and I sat by the fire last night, and we just enjoyed being, and that's something I'm looking to do more of.
Yes, amazing. So, one last question. I know I said no more work talk, but one thing just popped up, and I thought it would be good for the people. Since you have had privilege of coaching more than 500 people, helping them take their businesses to the next level, somebody from getting from scratch to launch, somebody from scaling up. When somebody is not able to take their business in control or scale up, or not able to make a shift in there, what is one or what are a couple of things that stop them from going to their next, and what can they do you must have noticed some things that just stand out every time when people are not moving.
First and foremost, your race, your pace.
Mm.
Your race, your pace. So don't compare your progress or your speed to somebody else's, because it'll only create suffering, which will only actually slow down your progress. It won't speed up your progress. So your pace, your race. And it's also to understand that your timing may be different than somebody else's. The seeds that are planted might take a little bit more time to germinate. That doesn't make you a failure or it's just to allow that your timeline is going at exactly the pace that your timeline is meant to go, and to not succumb to frustration. And as my bracelet says that we make by hand, is never give up. Never give up. Just one foot in front of the other. Keep going. I want you all to know I have fallen down multiple times. I've had multiple ideas that I put my full heart and soul and my life savings on the line for, and it hasn't always worked out. Keep going. Keep believing in yourself. Keep asking for more help. I mean, my earliest challenges were because I was embarrassed, insecure, worried that people would think I was a fraud if I asked for help. And so then I would just fake it until I made it, and I would compensate with hard work, right? Longer hours, more grind, get up earlier, stay longer at the office. No, raise your hand, surround yourself with mentors and coaches and leaders and guides, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't really matter. Surround yourself with community, other people who are powerful creators, right? It's not just about the coach or the mentor, right? It's like, what are other people doing, right? What can you learn from them? How can you uplift them? How can you contribute? But I would just say that the simplest answer is if something is not clicking in your business, number one, don't quit. Don't give up. You might have to give up on that particular business, but don't give up on yourself.
Yes.
Right? Sure, any individual business idea may or may not gain traction, but don't quit on yourself.
Yes.
Number two, don't build businesses that you want to build. Build businesses that other people need, right? The factor after 500 clients, the ones that end up getting the biggest results, and not even necessarily the fastest, but just over time, most courageous, most coachable, and those that are open to simplicity. So they'll, rather than being stubborn or resistant, they'll just allow the universe to guide in the direction that they're supposed to go, and they'll take clear action, right? So it's courageous. Then there is the evolution of being, right? So the version of this person that you're talking about who might be struggling in their business is not the same version of themselves who's going to fix the business, who's going to actually get it to turn the corner. So courage, up-level your beingness, and then raise your hand and ask for help, and then be super coachable to make the changes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's the mic drop right there. Yes, it was. I think that sums it up. Whenever you're in your journey of transformation, if you do all these three things, something is gonna get up, work out. So, how can people find more and more of your work? How can they connect with you? What's the best way?
I think the best way, honestly, is to go to we.upliftmillions.com. we.upliftmillions.com.
Show notes.
Yeah, we've got a full ecosystem. There's trainings in there. It's an amazing ecosystem of incredible people, primarily entrepreneurs, right, who want to lead with their heart. But eventually the platform is going to really be a portal for anybody, no matter what they're doing, who wants to participate in uplifting millions can go there. So I would just say, go there, begin to soak in what's there. I do a lot of free events and lots of other things, but that's a great starting place. And then go pick up the book, which is upliftmillions.com/book. Upliftmillions.com/book. Maximum Impact Potential.
I'll have them in show notes. And, I can say to everybody from my own experience, because I can only give from my experience. I wouldn't be having Alok here if I hadn't experienced something 6 months prior, right? It's experience that brings in, and I can vouch for Alok. One thing, like I mentioned, it's the energy. You can sense, you can have somebody, phony salesperson talking to you, but if you just for a minute sit down quiet, you sense the energy, and that's the energy Alok. He's authentic. He's gonna give you results. Sorry, not results. He's gonna give you things that can get you results. You have to get the results yourself, but he is the help you need. He'll give you that help, and if he cannot, he will tell you he cannot. And that's, I think, the Blue Zone leader is all about. So thank you, Alok, for all this time. I picked up so many things myself, and the best part of this is I can replay, and this is why I do podcasts, because I get to learn from Blue Zone leaders like you, and I can replay and I can ask for help again and again. Thank you.
Well, it's such a joy, Manpreet. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did and got some valuable nuggets out of it. If you liked it, there are other shows you can watch. They're exactly what you need. And I ask you to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the show. Really, I want to hear from you firsthand, what you felt, what you liked, what you didn't like. So thank you, and see you around.